This is CBN Newswatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm George Thomas. We begin our broadcast overseas, where the fight for freedom in Hong Kong has captured the attention of the world, even as police fire tear gas on one group protesting outside a police station in their neighborhood. CBN's chief international correspondent Gary Lane is following the story and joins me with more. Gary, tell us, what's the latest, sir?
Well, it's a lot calmer at the airport today because the protesters have shifted their tactics now. What they told CBN News this morning is that they are launching a letter-writing campaign now to go against American suppliers of the riot police. They said there are two companies that are involved from America that are sending things like tear gas canisters, rubber bullets, things that are being used against the protesters here, and they want that to be stopped. They say, look, these United States companies are helping in these attacks against peaceful, what they claim are peaceful demonstrations.
Gary, last month, July, we remembered the 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre in Beijing. Do you see anything like this similar happening today in Hong Kong?
Not today, not immediately. Now, eventually, that could happen. It depends on where this goes. It depends on what the protesters do and how threatened Beijing feels about this pro-democracy movement. They want to contain it to Hong Kong, and they want to see it go away. They don't want to see it spread to the mainland. And there are great interests involved in this, George. As you know, it's not the same as Tiananmen Square. I talked to Stephen Mosier, who's from the wrote a book called The Bully of Asia about China, and this is what he told me about it not being the same as Tiananmen Square.
The difference is that instead of, in 1989, 100 or so foreign journalists being held captive in one hotel in downtown Beijing, this massacre, this bloodshed will play out in the eyes of the entire world. Hong Kong is wired. There are thousands of correspondents in Hong Kong. There are literally tens of thousands of people who will be recording the violence on their cameras.
Very important point he's making.
Also, that is important, but also you got to think of all the investments China has, over $1.5 trillion in the stock exchange and capitalization in the market there. They've got a lot of investments there. They don't want to risk that.
The president has said a few remarks in the last 24 hours, but can, Gary, the United States do anything to support the protesters in their efforts to keep Hong Kong independent from mainland China?
Well, you've got to remember, we've got over $1 trillion worth of debt in T-bills and so forth that are in the hands of China in Beijing. And so we don't want to do too much to anger them, because what would happen to our economy if they said, okay, we're going to call in all those T-bills? But in addition to that, George, I think President Trump did the right thing just yesterday when he announced, hey, look, we're going to delay these tariffs on Chinese products, $300 billion worth. He's going to delay it until December 15th. That probably was a carrot to Beijing, and I think things have calmed down a bit since then.
1997, China made this agreement with Hong Kong that they would be one country, two systems. And this is what the protesters are, in a sense, fighting against, this extradition law. Do you think Hong Kong can remain free, this two-system way of governance?
No, I don't. Do you think it can? You've been to Hong Kong. I don't see how this could possibly happen in the long term, because Beijing wants to control Hong Kong. They want to keep the capitalism. China wants to keep the capitalism there and the money flowing without the democracy. And I think capitalism and democracy go hand in hand. Do they not?
And obviously, last 30 seconds here, this is a serious threat to China's government, because how they handle whether they send in these troops across the border or activate the 6,000 Chinese People's Liberation Army folks who are already in downtown Hong Kong. It's going to be very interesting how the Chinese respond.
Well, a lot of them, they've already responded by beating heads there. They've, the protesters say they've used triad gangs in the subway system, and also plainclothes policemen were at the airport yesterday. Some of them were clothed as demonstrators, arresting and beating heads there.
Incredible. All right, as always, sir, Appreciate your insights.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, in other news, even though President Trump said the U.S. would postpone some of the tariffs of China, as my colleague Gary Lane just mentioned, he has long said it is time the United States stand up to China. But could the trade war between our two countries hurt his strong economy and maybe his chances for re-election? My colleague Amber Strong brings us that story.
If it truly is the economy, stupid, then the president and the Trump administration would say they're winning, big time.
Our economic policy can be summed up in three very beautiful and simple words: jobs, jobs, jobs.
The unemployment rate is at its lowest in 50 years, and stocks are in the midst of one of the longest bull markets in history. Although things may look good for now, many Wall Street analysts are concerned about the warning signs ahead. Economists at Morgan Stanley and Bank of America warn of a possible recession, with fears of the president's back and forth with China as one of their top concerns. The president and his administration possibly calming those fears Tuesday, delaying plans for a 10% tariff on billions of dollars in Chinese goods on things like cell phones and laptops just ahead of the busy Christmas shopping season.
We had a very good talk yesterday with China, a very, very productive call. I was not sure whether or not they wanted to wait till a Democrat has a chance to get in. Hopefully that's not going to happen.
Speaking of the election, while a majority of Americans approve of the president's overall handling of the economy, his average approval rating still sits below 50%, making the economy a potential make or break ahead of 2020. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, Amber. One other story on the tariffs issue. Christian publishers are rejoicing after the Bible has been exempt from Trump's looming tariffs on Chinese goods. The 10% hike on $300 billion worth of Chinese goods will go into effect on September 1st. With China being the world's largest Bible publisher, Christian publishers in the U.S. have warned that the tariffs would have made some translations too costly to produce. The president and CEO of Lifeway Christian Resources, Ben Mandrell, told Christianity Today the announcement gave him hope, but he is troubled that the word of God would ever be taken hostage in an international trade dispute. Trump immigration official Ken Cuccinelli is defending his comments about immigration and the wording on the Statue of Liberty. Cuccinelli was asked on National Public Radio about a new policy keeping immigrants who might end up on government assistance from getting green cards and whether it lines up with the words etched on Lady Liberty's base. Give me your tired, your poor, the wretched, refuse, the homeless, and the tempest-tossed. Cuccinelli responded with a revised version. Take a listen.
Give me your tired and your poor who can stand on their own 2 feet and who will not become a public charge.
He added the plaque was put on the statue at about the same time a public charge rule was written, which blocked immigration to those who could not take care of themselves without becoming a ward of the government. Mark Short, Chief of Staff for Vice President Pence and Real Clear Politics AB Stoddard, joined CBN's Faith Nation to discuss the immigration debate and Cuccinelli's comments. Take a listen.
He has talked for a while about merit-based immigration and how we should be bringing in people who are ready to do jobs. There are actually a lot of voters in the mainstream of the electorate who don't support Donald Trump, who also support merit-based immigration. I think that the way that he continues on this issue to be divisive with his rhetoric and to sort of not embrace a sit-down with the separate and co-equal branch makes it more of a political liability in terms of the people who are opposing him and Democrats out on the primary campaign trail, talking about his cruelty and his divisiveness. Whereas this is actually a proposal that if it was on the table among other provisions in an immigration package, it might be watered down, but it might actually end up being included. It's the way that he drops these policy bombs by executive action and then sort of prompts a reaction from Democrats that makes it more controversial and unpopular than it probably would be in a different setting.
Mark, the point you hear people make out there is that the base of the Statue of Liberty says, give me your poor, give me your tired. And they're saying, critics say that Acting Director of Citizenship and Immigration, Ken Cuccinelli, has basically rewritten those words to say, we're looking for those who stand on their own 2 feet. Is this a sign of changing times?
You know, I think one thing that would be a surprise probably to a lot of your viewers is that this administration actually naturalized more citizens last year than the 10-year average, including the 8 years of the Obama administration. I think this administration welcomes those who come to this country to work, and I think that the president wants to embrace, we want to embrace lawful reform. And, you know, one thing I would take issue with that AB laid out as the former head of legislative affairs for this White House. I tried to get Democrats on many occasions to partner with us on immigration reform, but I think it's an issue that's so politicized today that there's not an effort to try to negotiate on these terms. And so we've pleaded with Democrats on several occasions to give us more beds for the crisis of the border. We've pleaded with them to give us the tools we think we need to enforce immigration laws, and sadly there isn't the cooperation that we wish there was on these issues.
You can get the latest news from our nation's capital on tonight's Faith Nation. The Palestinian Authority was forced to answer for anti-Semitic and racist statements made towards the Jewish people during a review by the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination that happened on Tuesday. The 32-page UN Watch report pointed out anti-Semitic and anti-Israel actions by the Palestinian media and speeches of state officials. A Palestinian representative says the accusations are false and, quote, regrettable. Hillsong worship leader Marty Sampson is clarifying his recent statement about his faith, saying he hasn't really lost it, but it is on shaky ground. Sampson and Hillsong worship performed to sold-out crowds singing about hope in Christ, and Sampson himself needs it himself right now, after saying in a now-deleted Instagram post that he is genuinely losing his faith and it doesn't bother him. Sampson told the Christian Post he is still searching for the truth and still listens to leaders of the faith. Bryant Crader, the president of West Saint Laurent, North America, says finding faith in God actually fueled his love for both fashion and people. Crider, who's been a Christian for more than 10 years, isn't shy about sharing how he came to Christ. Here's part of his testimony from a 2017 interview with Pastor Rich Wilkerson Jr. in Miami. Crider said he, like many others, kept searching for answers in life.
So I stood on this field one day in 1996 in July, and I started weeping and weeping and weeping because I heard this voice that said, "I am the answer that you're looking for." And I felt my whole soul change in an instant. I fell on my knees and I couldn't stop crying that this God would be so in love with me, that it would captivate my heart and introduce me to his love story.
Crider says he has worked to remain a dynamic Christian and not paint the town beige, explaining he didn't want to become boring in his faith. He says God's too passionate for believers to have a boring Christian life. Coming up, what it means for America to go on the offensive when it comes to cybersecurity.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary, or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Here, we're committed to a heritage of rigorous scholarship dating back over 1,000 years.
And to a faith tradition dating back 1,000 more.
This is how we create a culture of inquiry where no topic is off limits.
And a culture of hope.
Anything's possible!
It's Christian leadership.
And it's changing the world for the better.
It's higher learning.
It's greater knowing.
It's what makes us whole.
It's what makes us Regent.
Welcome back to the CBN News channel. America is using cyber warfare to carry out targeted attacks, and our country's enemies are trying to do the very same against us. CBN National Security Correspondent Eric Phillips shares the challenges of protecting our digital systems and what one cyber range is doing to help out.
When the FBI was formed in 1908, there were no cyber crimes because there was no cyber. Only over the last decade has the Bureau taken the potential of cyber attacks seriously. And now, it's a game of catch-up. This is what a cyber attack looks like. A few keystrokes doing more damage than many physical crimes.
Today, it's really all about weaponizing very particular software with the specific goal of trying to extort money from you or take you out of business, just completely eliminate you.
Don Murdoch is with the Institute for Cybersecurity at Regent University in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Through real-life simulations on their cyber range, he trains people from military installations, Fortune 500 companies, and government agencies to become cyber defenders, those who can spot a cyber attack and stop it.
Once you understand how the computer systems work and how the networks work, then you can understand how to co-opt it or misuse it. And once you understand how to detect the difference, then you can learn what the attacker's doing, and then you can learn how to defend it and harden it and make it stronger.
Right now, the sheer number of cyber attacks is outpacing law enforcement's ability to investigate them.
We're probably 5 to 10 years behind in kind of stepping up to this challenge.
Arnold Bell spent 25 years at the FBI. Half of that time he worked in the cyber crimes division. When he joined the division, cybercrime was about 7 or 8 on the priority list. Now it's number 3, just behind terrorism and counterintelligence.
9/11 happens. The shift obviously changes the terrorism as it should, and there's a huge focus there. But what's happened now with all the different breaches that you read about every week, it seems like, that has raised the profile of this crime type.
A delayed response, however, means working overtime to update technology, recruit talent, and train agents to investigate cyber attacks.
And the challenges with the Bureau is that, they're competing with private sector, they're competing with all the other federal agencies, and the government pay structure doesn't compete well with private sectors.
They need highly specialized talent that does not grow on trees.
But it is developed in places like this.
When people come to train to be a cyber defender, they're actually using real systems, generating real data, real network traffic. It's not simulated, it's not some 2-station lab. It's 15 to 20 network segments and 80 operating systems working together that looks like a small to a medium-sized business.
Murdoch trains defenders to look for system compromises and how to trace them back to the source, a necessary skill for anyone investigating a breach. For the FBI, it's a growing problem with more than 300 identified cyber terror groups worldwide, many of them backed by foreign governments.
Trying to get action and trying to get intelligence and trying to get information out of some of these countries where we don't have really strong connections is a big challenge.
A big challenge for an agency that wasn't even established for this.
The law enforcement is kind of thinking people commit crimes. Well, today, your crimes really can be 25,000 or 50,000 computers that may or may not be owned by an individual. So, leveraging all those computers on behalf of one attacker, that's a much bigger problem.
Murdoch says while much of what he teaches is sophisticated, some of it is just good old common sense security. He calls spear phishing the most common form of attack, and it happens through emails. He says if people would simply be more skeptical of the links they click, that alone would drastically reduce the number of attacks. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Still ahead, telling the story of the persecuted church in an action movie.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life, life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
A new movie is out telling the story of the persecuted church through a dramatic action thriller. The movie is called Defiant, and film and digital media pastor Stephen Kristoff, Gateway Assembly, joins us now to talk about the drama. Pastor Chris, thanks for your time. Tell us the story at play here.
Yeah, so Defiant's the story of a fictional world, which was intentional. Many have undertaken the story of, or the task of telling the true documentary stories of persecuted believers, but we wanted this to be about all believers and kind of what the world is facing right now. It's the story of this new world, they call it, where this forbidden book is now something that they're trying to live their lives by, but it's illegal, and they're trying to release it online for the world to know the truth of this old world myth that many believe.
And speak to that point, how does it connect with the realities of the persecuted church in the world today?
Yeah, so it's a fictional account, but it is the fictional account of some very, very real circumstances that people actually have to walk through in restricted nations. The World Watch List estimates an estimated 245 million persecuted believers in just the top 50 of the 150 countries that they survey. So this is a very real reality for many people, where the Bible is illegal, where they have to practice their faith in secret or in private for fear of fine, penalty, death, imprisonment, whatever it is. And Defiant seeks to sort of shed light on that and let people give people an understanding of what these believers may be going through.
Is it based in biblical prophecy? Will we see references to it?
There is some of that. It definitely has the feel of sort of what could be end times. But our goal, really, our heart was to display in kind of timeless reality. There are certain things, there are certain people that are walking through this right now. It will be a very real reality, we believe, in coming days and in those final days before Jesus ultimately finishes his kingdom work. But it's ultimately kind of intended to be a timeless reality of what Christians have walked through since the cross.
You made some reference about other documentaries that have been made about the persecuted church. How does this dramatic portrayal differ from other works that we've seen in the past?
Yeah, I mean, it differs very simply from it's an action-adventure fictional work. We didn't want to take one group or one believer's specific story. Those are so motivating to us as a team. They're so inspiring to us as a team to watch the actual stories. If you watch some of the things Voice of the Martyrs is doing, or there's a company called Frontier Alliance that's about to release a documentary right now. Like, they're doing incredible stuff, but we want to take it a different route, and we seek to entertain and enlighten. We don't believe that you should have to give up enjoying a movie to be educated and enlightened. We want to do both. And so we chose a fictional route, which was just kind of the way the Lord led us.
Yeah. Tell us about the prayer movement you guys are organizing with this drama.
Yeah, so what we're really excited about is on November 3rd, which is the International Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church, this film is going to be used as what we're calling a movement. You can own the movie, but you can be the movement. And so on or around November 3rd, we're organizing what we call Defiant Nights. And those are free screenings of this movie to anyone interested, churches, organizations, college students in your dorm. If you want to organize a screening, we're organizing free screenings before or after an hour of prayer for the persecuted church. And really our heart, we believe that the persecution stops when the hearts of the persecutors change. So our message is very simple. Hebrews 13 says to remember the prisoners as if you yourself were in prison. Jesus says in his Sermon on the Mount, pray for those who persecute you. So we want to remember the prisoners and we want to pray for the Pauls. We believe God can still write Saul to Paul stories out of the current conflicts of today, right now. And so we're binding our hearts around that. You can sign up for that free. It's totally free viewing. We give you everything you need for a really powerful and a stress-free event for your church or community organization.
Okay, terrific. Well said, and you can see it right there, defiantmovie.com, and you can go for it. Pastor Stephen Christ, we appreciate your work and your time.
Thank you so much.
You can catch the latest in entertainment news tonight with Ephraim Graham and Studio 5 right here on the CBN News channel at 9:30 Eastern.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
Chick-fil-A is one of the nation's most popular fast food restaurants. That's even the case in Mansfield, Ohio, although they don't even have a standalone store there. The company visited the city in a food truck as part of a market study. It was so popular that there were huge lines of people waiting to get one of those famous sandwiches. Well, guess what? Now local ministers and residents, they are banding together to get a brick-and-mortar store there, noting that the company's mission statement to glorify God and the tremendous and regal treatment of its customers. Well, folks, that is it for this edition of Newswatch. Have a fantastic day and God bless.